Thanks, Lexi. Now, experts are still wondering who exactly will receive symptoms from the COVID-19 vaccine. And with President Biden's plan to vaccinate more than 300 million Americans by the end of May, these vaccines are going to start becoming readily available. Simple and Sweet Creamery produces small batch ice cream, and they donate over 50% of their proceeds to helping to feed children in the local community. They also use local ingredients and are dedicated to helping the community in Northwest Arkansas. Thanks, Lexi. I'm at the Multicultural Center in the Arkansas Union, where normally they would be holding multiple different Black History Month events during this month of February. But due to the pandemic, they've had to move a lot of these events online. Thanks, Lexi. Consistent sub-zero temperatures in February had many growers worried that they would lose their crop. But despite these fears, the strawberry crop is looking better than ever. Fruit crops across northwest Arkansas suffered an unprecedented scare in mid-February.
Some black or some browns.
Temperatures dropped to almost negative 20 degrees in some areas. But thanks to the heavy snow cover, strawberries made it through the freeze unscathed.
Strawberries were again lucky because they're low to the ground. We put row covers over them, and then there was snow on top of them. And that snow really provided a lot of insulation.
Now strawberry grower Dennis McGarrett is concerned about this week's freezing temperatures.
If we make it through this freeze, we believe that we're going to have as good of a crop or better than we've ever had.
Temperatures last night dropped below 30 degrees and are forecasted to fall below freezing again tonight.
On strawberries, an open bloom is damaged right around 31 degrees Fahrenheit or below.
This week's freeze could be worse than February if there is no wind to keep row covers elevated.
When we have frost on these covers, if it's a heavy frost, what'll happen is any bloom that's touching these covers you see will be damaged and it won't produce a berry. This berry here is just a few days ahead of that one.
McGarrett's blackberries will not be affected by temperatures this week, but it may still take more time to know the damage February's weather did to the plants.
So there's no research really to know what they do at that temperature. So we're just basically guessing at this point.
Blackberries will start to bloom in the warmer temperatures next week, and strawberry season in Arkansas will begin at the end of April. The blackberry plants are feared to have sustained cold damage and will not support flowers whenever they bloom. But growers are still thinking that the crop will be viable, just a smaller amount of fruit available. Reporting live for UATV, I'm James Morgan. The cold front we saw earlier this week was because of a pattern shift in the weather that started this month. Now, April's snow may be not out of the ordinary for northwest Arkansas, but some temperatures dropped to record lows. Fayetteville experienced the city's second latest snowfall on record on Tuesday. The snow fell for a couple hours Tuesday afternoon, with some places in northwest Arkansas receiving over an inch.
The accumulating snow, that's unusual. Getting a few flurries in April, that happens every other year, every third year, that kind of thing. But getting an actual accumulation like what we saw the other day, that snow was coming down.
Temperatures dropped below freezing Tuesday night after the snow. April freezes are relatively common in northwest Arkansas, but this week's temperatures were unprecedented in the River Valley.
This was the last freeze, sub-freezing temperatures that Fort Smith has ever recorded.
Late freezes may be more common in northwest Arkansas, but with temperatures dropping as low as 25 degrees in Fayetteville Wednesday morning, some plants could soon be feeling the effects.
You can see a lot of our plants did okay right here, but then you can see this. And what appears to be, what looks really like freezer burn almost.
Bybee says this is what happens when temperatures drop this late in the growing season.
You get to 26 or below, and that just kills so many plants.
Despite the weather this week, temperatures should return to normal heading into May. And temperatures have already risen, today getting to higher than 60 degrees. But Darby told me not to rule out a late freeze because freezes have happened as late as May. Reporting live for UATV, I'm James Morgan. That's right, Lexi. The vaccines may be at the front of everyone's mind right now, but testing is still very important to controlling the spread of COVID-19. Now at the Pat Walker Health Center, they now have the capability of testing over 240 people per day. Symptomatic individuals can get tested at the Garland Respiratory Clinic. Now, the Garland Respiratory Clinic also provides tests for the flu and for strep throat if students test negative for COVID-19. There's also testing available for asymptomatic individuals and anyone who's preparing to travel over spring break.
If someone doesn't have any symptoms and they want to travel, for instance, or they want to visit relatives, or maybe they've been identified as a contact, they can also make those types of appointments online, and they're completed in the tents in our outside parking lot.
Testing at the health center has decreased dramatically over the last few months. This has coincided with fewer cases in the state and fewer hospitalizations. Now, I talked with Dr. Sharif, and she said that she believes that this could mean that vaccines are taking effect and the case count has actually dropped. But it's also possible that students are just getting COVID fatigue and not getting tested at all. Reporting live for UATV, I'm James Morgan. The veto of House Bill 1570 has gotten the primary focus of most Arkansans, but there have already been several bills passed by the Arkansas legislature this session. 2 of these bills were signed by the governor himself. The Fairness in Women's Sports Act was passed a couple weeks ago, and it prevents transgender athletes from competing in sports with the gender that they identify as. And the Girls Act separates athletic teams into girls, boys, and co-ed, and includes both universities and high schools. I talked with the only transgender elected official in Arkansas who talked to the governor ahead of his veto about the legislation.
And I think when we met with the governor, I think that he is now starting to see the pattern of what the legislature is sending him. And it's not a good pattern. It's a pattern that's ultimately damaging for Arkansas and its reputation.
LGBTQ rights groups have come out against these bills, including the ACLU, who said they are preparing litigation. Now, nationally, hundreds of student athletes have encouraged the NCAA to ban hosting championships in states with anti-transgender legislation. Now, Evelyn told me that she had a productive conversation with the governor last week, but she says that the governor doesn't have the power to veto these bills all by himself because the Arkansas House can get rid of the veto by just a simple majority. Reporting live for UATV, I'm James Morgan.